In a world where everything feels like it's built on shifting sand, that search for solid ground, for truth that actually holds firm, well, it feels more urgent than ever. There was this one thinker in the 20th century who said that all our modern confusion isn't some accident. He said it's the direct result of us turning our back on truth itself. And really, that's the question that defines our time, isn't it? When every truth claim is treated as just another opinion and everything feels relative, how are you supposed to navigate reality? Where do we even begin to find our footing? That thinker was Francis Schaeffer, and he saw all this cultural chaos not as just something that happened, but as the totally predictable result of a series of bad choices. He argued that our entire civilization had basically cut itself loose from its only anchor. So, to really get the solution he was offering, we first have to wrap our heads around the problem he diagnosed. And what he saw was a civilization in an absolute freefall. Schaeffer actually traced this decline step by step. He said it all started back in the Renaissance, where man was put on a pedestal and God was kind of pushed to the side. Then came the Enlightenment, which decided human reason was a better guide than divine revelation. And that, of course, led to the modern era, where we tried to live as if God didn't exist, which finally landed us in postmodern despair, the total abandonment of truth itself. But right into the middle of this spiritual and intellectual mess stepped this really unique and powerful voice, a man who was offering a way back to solid ground. And that was Francis Schaeffer. Now, this was no ivory tower academic, not at all. He was a pastor, a philosopher, and a cultural critic who jumped right into the burning questions of his day, looking at everything, art, film, politics, science, through the all-encompassing framework of the Bible. High up in the Swiss Alps, he and his wife Edith started a community called L'Abri. That's French for the shelter. And their home became this incredible hub where literally anyone, from a skeptical university student to a wandering hippie, could show up and have their deepest questions taken seriously, with both intellectual honesty and real compassion. Okay, so what was the core of Schaeffer's answer to this collapsing culture? It all came down to a radical, absolutely all-encompassing view of what truth is. Schaeffer really brought the term worldview into the mainstream. He taught that everybody, and I mean everybody, has a lens they use to interpret reality. And he argued that while there are a ton of worldviews out there, only the Christian worldview actually provides a coherent and consistent foundation for all of life's big questions. You see, for Schaeffer, Christianity wasn't just a collection of nice religious ideas. No way. It was a single, unified, comprehensive truth, with a capital T, about all of reality. It wasn't just a truth, it was the very framework for truth itself. And if you have that kind of total truth, it means you can't just lock your faith away in some private spiritual box that you only open on Sundays. It has to be the foundation for everything you do, Monday through Saturday, your work, your art, your politics, your family, the whole shebang. Think about it. Philosophy, art, government, science, these aren't some scary secular zones to be avoided. Schaeffer insisted these are all spheres of life that have to be brought under the truth of Christ. He called Christians to get in there and engage these areas, not run away from them. And this call to engage culture, not to flee from it, was probably one of his most challenging and frankly prophetic messages. He saw so many Christians just retreating into this sort of platonic spirituality, a faith that's totally disconnected from the real world of art and science and politics. He said that was completely unbiblical. Instead, he called them to be salt and light, to actively engage with the culture, to preserve what's good and to challenge what's false, and to always, always do it with compassion. Yeah, this was not an easy message for people to hear. It made the secular world really uncomfortable because he was insisting on absolute truth. And it made the church just as uncomfortable because he was insisting that faith demands action in every single area of life. And believe me, his ideas definitely stirred up controversy. He argued for civil disobedience if the state commands something evil. He flat out identified secular humanism as a competing religion, not some neutral viewpoint. He called out churches for compromising on biblical truth. And at a time when many Christians were suspicious of the arts, he championed them as a totally legitimate way to glorify God. This quote right here from his book, A Christian Manifesto, really gets to the heart of his most debated idea. Because God is the ultimate authority, period. No human government can claim absolute power. So when a state's law contradicts God's law, Schaeffer argued that a Christian's ultimate duty is to obey God, not the state. These two works really capture his entire project. How Should We Then Live was his huge historical diagnosis of how the West declined. And then A Christian Manifesto was the clear, urgent, and direct call for Christians to actually stand up and act on that truth. So, what's the lasting impact of this man from the mountains? Well, it's a legacy of incredible intellectual and spiritual courage. I think Schaeffer's greatest contribution was waking the church up to the fact that its faith is not just one little slice of life. It's the framework for all of it. Biblical truth, he said, applies everywhere, or it really doesn't apply anywhere. His whole message can pretty much be boiled down to this simple but incredibly profound three-step process. First, know the truth and stand on it without compromise. Second, don't run from the world, engage it. And third, do all of it with a genuine love and compassion for people. In the end, Schaeffer was like a watchman on the wall. He saw the danger coming and he blew the trumpet. He warned the church not to just hide its beliefs away, but to live them out boldly and lovingly in a world that was just desperate to see something real. And this is maybe his most enduring line. It's the ultimate summary of his entire philosophy. There is no middle ground. Christ is either Lord over everything, or he isn't Lord of anything. And that brings us to the final question Schaeffer really leaves for every one of us. If truth really is total, what part of your life, your work, your relationships, your art, your thinking, what part needs to be reclaimed for that truth?